Jason Grace is a character from the Heroes of Olympus and Trials of Apollo. Out of all the characters in the Riordanverse, Jason is by far one of the most hated and despised characters for some reason. And it's quite shocking to me, as I was one of the few readers who genuinely liked Jason in the books. Because I keep seeing so much hate surrounding him, I decided to make this video to dig deeper into this and answer the question, why is Jason Grace so hated? Before getting into that, there will obviously be spoilers for the Heroes of Olympus and Trials of Apollo. So with that, let's get started. Reason number 1. The timing of his character. We first meet Jason in The Lost Hero, the first book of the Heroes of Olympus. Before reading The Lost Hero, the majority of Rick Riordan's readers during this time had just read The Last Olympian, or the last book in a series called Percy Jackson and the Olympians. The Lost Hero was marketed as the next book to The Last Olympian, and people were expecting some of the old characters from PJO to come back, specifically the titular character himself, Percy. When you open a Lost Hero book, the first chapter's character is a guy named Jason, and automatically it puts readers off because they were expecting Percy. That's how everyone who read PJO first before The Lost Hero reacted, and that's how I also felt, which I mentioned in my review of The Lost Hero. With this, people were already questioning who the heck was Jason, and why is he in this book, which already gave readers a sour taste as to who Jason is. From there, readers like me were trying to figure out where The Lost Hero was heading, and since Jason had the first chapter and is clearly one of the main characters, some fans thought of another reason to hate Jason. Reason number 2. Jason Grace is the new Percy Jackson. This was an idea that many fans had when reading The Lost Hero, as Jason had the first chapter, he leads the quest to save Hera, and overall, the storyline revolves around him trying to regain his memories. So it's as if Rick Riordan was giving Jason the same treatment he gave to Percy in Percy series or PJO. With this idea, fans have gone online and said that Jason was the new Percy, and comparisons were made between Jason and Percy. This involved online polls that asked people who would win in a fight between Jason and Percy, which Rick actually teased in his book The Mark of Athena, when Percy and Jason almost fought to the death while being possessed by Eidolons. Aside from this, the comparisons between Jason and Percy were endless, as the two had many similarities. Some of these are the following. Both are the golden boys at their camps who were swapped by Hera for Hera's plan for the Prophecy of Seven. Both were skilled swordsmen who have defeated many monsters in their life. Both were romantically tied with Reyna Ramirez-Arellano, and interestingly enough, both denied Reyna because of another girl. Jason said no to Reyna because of his girlfriend at the time, Piper McLean, while Percy said no to Reyna because of his girlfriend, Annabeth Chase. Aside from all of this, both Percy and Jason are said to be leaders, and both became praetors in Camp Jupiter. I can go on and on about how many similarities Percy and Jason have, but for the sake of this video, I'll just leave it at that. They're eerily similar, but the main thing that they're not similar with is their personality, which brings us to reason number 3, Jason's personality. Probably the most infamous reason for disliking Jason is because of his uninteresting personality. Let's dig deeper into this though, and see what is Jason's personality anyway. Jason in the books is described to be serious, selfless, kind, and overall he seems like a reasonable enough guy. So, what is everyone so mad about? I've reread a bit of the Heroes of Olympus and other people's thoughts to figure this out, and what I gathered was that in The Lost Hero, the most unrelatable character was Jason because of the amnesia plotline. If you remember from The Lost Hero, Jason didn't have any of his memories because of Hera tampering with his brain. He didn't know anything, which made him pretty frustrating to read about, as you get nothing about him from himself. You only get secondhand thoughts from other people, like Jason's ex-girlfriend Piper McLean. Piper tells us that Jason was sweet and somewhat kind, while Leah tries to back this up by saying that Jason was a good friend. The main issue with this is that we don't really see Jason's personality so much in himself. We're told secondhand information about him, and this proves to be a bad thing because we can't connect with Jason as a character so much. It was easier to connect with other characters like Leo or Piper or even Frank and Hazel because they knew who they were and they were given more depth through flashbacks compared to Jason. We do eventually learn about Jason's past, but it's already in the last book of the Heroes of Olympus or the Blood of Olympus, so it's pretty much long overdue and it's almost too late to connect with Jason after so many books. Added to what I mentioned with the comparisons to Percy, we're also told as to how good of a fighter Jason is instead of seeing it. I mean, don't get me wrong, we do see Jason fight pretty well and prove himself to be a formidable enemy in battle, but compared to Percy, there's just not that much stuff. Jason is almost always distracted or clueless, like when there's even a joke about how many times Jason gets knocked out in the Heroes of Olympus by a brick. It's become a meme that even Rick Riordan himself joked about it in the Magnus chase chapter. Hearthstone passes out even more than Jason Grace, though I have no idea who that is. We're not taking Jason's skills more seriously than we ought to, as we're not connecting with him so much. So with all of these points, let's summarize Jason's character. Some fans and readers of the Riordanverse didn't end up liking his character because of many reasons, and it all stems down to how Jason was written in the books. His amnesia issue became a barrier that readers had to go through to further understand his character, and overall, it was hard to connect with him. The only event that actually made readers like myself understand Jason was after his death in the Burning Maze. Like a lot of readers, I didn't realize Jason's worth as a character until we lost him in that book, and it's pretty much too late to appreciate him since, he's dead. Overall though, Jason was a character who had quite a lot of potential. If you try to really pay attention to his internal thoughts in the House of Hades, Jason was someone who represented people who were too rule-oriented and serious to enjoy life. He was given this life without even wanting it, as he was literally kidnapped by wolves at the young age of 2 to be trained into a warrior, but he continues to fight and do what is right despite losing not just his memory, but also his family. Which is why, looking back, Jason could have been a more interesting character if readers didn't try comparing him so much to the other characters. Added with a bit more flashbacks and Jason chapters, Jason could have been a much more interesting and lovable character. So, how about you? What are your thoughts on Jason? Let me know in the comments down below.